Lovely people, a pleasant afternoon to everybody. So beautiful people, I'm not sure, it seemed to have been recent. The Prime Minister was on a podcast overseas because, they were talking, you'd hear the news clipping going and so on. And Jamaica back in the day, was a basket case. They would be, our country was like a running joke. Like they said, Jamaica is still alive or something of the sort. They had this very anecdotal comment to make about us because of our poor fiscal habits. And, the Prime Minister was being interviewed or on a podcast, as I said, overseas. And I said to myself, I wanted to do a little research on, because the Prime Minister mentioned something that I found very, very good, and saying, that is something that I think a lot of Jamaicans, well-thinking Jamaicans, well-wishers would want to happen for Jamaica, for us to be like how Singapore was turned around, and that was courtesy of Lee Kuan Yew, who incidentally, he was a prime minister from 1959 to 1990, 31 years he was a prime minister for. He turned around the country, during the most of his tenure as PM, and that is after the independence from Malaysia in 1965, the architect of modern Singapore's development strategy, anti-corruption policies, strong rule of law, investment in education, public housing and infrastructure, attracted foreign direct investment, FDI, developed world-class port and airport, built Singapore into a global finance and tech hub. And they have some key policies and contributors like Goh Keng Swee, the economic architect, S. Rajaratnam, foreign policy architect, and they place a lot of emphasis on multiracialism, which is great, meritocracy on the basis of your competencies, your skills, not who is friend and Kumbolo and company, and pragmatism. And I said to myself, I wanted to know what the average salary today in Singapore is, because that also contributes to a high economic growth and development. And I said, let me look. And it says the median gross monthly income full-time, the 40 hours per week, it is $5,000 to $6,000 per month. That's a Singapore dollar. If it is converted to US, that is approximately $3,700 to $4,400 monthly. And that's not a bad. And it says the median gross salary. So that's not the highest. What is even more interesting, it says entry level fresh graduate. So you're just coming out of, for example, the University of the West Indies or UTech or whichever university. The fresh graduates, the Singapore, it says 3,000 to 4,000. So I'm assuming that if the 5,000 is 3,000, so this looks like about maybe $2,000 something US. I'm just guessing that by just looking at the 3,000, 4,000. So it's about 2,000 and change US dollars for fresh graduates. So that is approximately over $350,000 if I'm to put it at the $2,000 mark or over. So they're almost at the amount, in a sense, where a minister said anyone earning $500,000 per month years ago, they are barely scraping. That is exactly what was said. Never forgotten it. I've never forgotten it. So when I heard Prime Minister Andrew Holness said, a clipping was going on, he was saying that, without a doubt, Jamaica is going to be the Caribbean country in the Western Hemisphere that will be similar to Singapore. So it therefore means this kind of salary that we're looking at Oh my goodness. I am yet in expectancy for something like that, because it therefore means, let's check what the amount would be. So I looked at what 4,400 is, and I put it against 160. That's approximately $704,000, and we're talking at the median level. We're not talking like the high tier, the average level, and we're talking. So it therefore means the average person who has a bachelor's, wouldn't bother mention master's or even PhD, should not be getting less than that. If you want to use the 3,700, and by the time, and the reason why I even say that, because by the time Jamaica is to get there, we should be above this amount, times 160, 592,000. I'll call it 600,000. So by the time Jamaica is to get to the Singapore level, this, this will be like, just a little average in terms of the salary. That would be just an average salary. Average. Because if the entry level people are getting about $300,000 to $400,000, fresh, brand new graduates, it tells a story of what what's his name again there? The man that was Prime Minister for 31 years. The Lee Kuan Yew, or whatever his name is. Right? From 1959 to 1990, he decided that this cannot continue. The country has to be like a first world, which it is. And you look at the salaries of the people. I have to speak on that because quite a number of people are despondent because they're not satisfied with the salaries. There are too many people are underemployed, and I'm grateful that unemployment is 3% coming from maybe 16%. I'm happy to see the road infrastructure. I'm happy to see apartments being built. I'm happy to see the new highways. I mean, when I see the road work, I am very happy because years ago, we wondered, some of the places that were so dilapidated. You wonder to yourself if any life would actually visit. I am so happy to see the development. There have been changes, and the people who said there have been no changes infrastructurally, that's a lie. We see it. You know what I mean? In traffic, we feel it, and so on. But we need to feel more. The people need to feel more in their pockets. Remember, it's a politician of this present government had stated that, boy, the people, and he was it's like he was almost distressed saying it. And this was years ago, saying the people who are earning 500,000 monthly. It would have been more than likely gross. Barely scraping. And see, today in 2025 in Singapore, they're earning over $700,000, between, call it $600,000 to $700,000 at the median average level. The entry level graduates earning, call it $300,000 to $400,000. So, and it also tells a story that as you get older, based on your tenure, based on your competence, your skills and abilities, because it says based on meritocracy, you should be going up and not barely these incremental movements, has got to really change. So for us to get there, I really respect the fiscal discipline. I really respect the fact when I heard the Prime Minister saying that, we have moved from basket case to case study. And as I said, they were saying with the IMF, we were like a running joke. We were like a running joke, like they were saying, for example, Jamaica still alive because of the borrowing and the borrowing and the borrowing, the constant borrowing. And that spirit seemed to have just landed itself in our country, with quite a number of loan companies. Yes, they have helped people, but may I tell you, the interest rate, the payback, what people have to go through and all of that, So I want to see Jamaica transform to a country like Singapore. It is possible. I believe it is. We have to work together. We have to have that positive mindset. We have to also improve in a number of things. First of all, our education. There are too many people who are illiterate, and their emotional intelligence is very low. Their IQ is very low. This is no shade, this is no disrespect, but that has to be improved so that our economy can be improved. Because the education system in Singapore is good. So Prime Minister, I would love to see that, so that the salaries can improve and other. Guys, you know what to do with TikTok and YouTube. Subscribe, give me one of those.